Hello, everyone who is on our Zoom. Rita, it's good to see you. Matthew, Jay, it's good to see you. It is 6 o'clock and the Board of Ed does have a quorum, and so I'm going to start our meeting. And the first, it is my honor and privilege to start the Groton Board of Education Committee of the whole meeting. It's August 15th and it's 6 and change, 6 o'clock. And the first order of business is for the approval of the committee of the whole meeting minutes on August 8th. Can I have a motion? So I have Andrea. Do I have a second?
Rita.
I have Rita as the second. Thank you, Rita. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of the approval of the committee of the whole meeting minutes of August 8th, please say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? That motion has carried. The next order of business was the review of the new board member interview questions. I received thoughts and comments from, or a question from Matthew and Liz and Bev, and I have them here. And every one of them, including mine, one of the questions was around why do people want to run? What is their hope? What are they thinking? Priorities, I guess is the word. Sorry, I lost that for a second. And Ms. Joan, I don't know if you see, but it looks like Beverly has joined us as well.
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Super. So what are your priorities? And then another question that Bev asked, which is very similar to what mine was, what motivates you to serve on the Board of Ed? Liz Porter said, explain what you believe is the primary role of the Board of Education member, which I thought was interesting. Please elaborate on your strengths that you feel will best benefit the students of Groton. Matthew, yours was I had this. But sort of what is, once again, it was your priorities, which was, I think, questions that people had asked of you. Matthew, I'm really shortening what you had stated, so you're more than welcome to add to that. But it looks like priorities is one of the themes that came through for 4 people. I don't know if Jay or Rita, whether you have other ones that you want to have, but I think I can actually ascertain about 5 of those from the questions that I got.
I do feel one of the things you should mention is the time commitment. And whether or not they have the time for all the meetings we have. And that might be something you would say to them, not ask them about it, but explain the time commitments, the committees and so forth. Because the last thing we want is to have someone serve on the board and not be able to, attend the meetings and so forth.
I had 2 other, Rita, to your point, I had 2 other people that had called me to ask about the position. And when I told them that about what they would be looking at in terms of time commitment, actually both candidates said that their family life was a little bit too hectic to be able to throw that into the wrench. So that's a good point. One of the questions that I had asked or that I had jotted down is please talk about themselves, but talk about them in terms of how they feel that they could fit in as a team member of the Board of Ed. So once again, finding out a little bit about themselves, but then also seeing how they feel like that would put them, how they would put them as a team. So that's what I have gotten so far. Maybe between Andrea and I, we could wordsmith what we have, and if people wanted to, that they could send it to us, and then I would just send that back out to you guys again, just to let you know And once again, to Rita, thank you very much for realizing that Monday, we have that 5th Monday in this month. And I would like to use that as our interview time. And maybe we would gather for 15 minutes before the first interview so that we can just make sure that our stuff is together, and then like maybe assign questions to people. So if there's 8 of us that are attending, then we should have 8 questions.
I don't know if we should have 8 questions, but I think 5 questions is really good. But I think maybe if somebody else could talk about time commitment. Another person could say that even though this is a democratic thought, this is a very apolitical board. I think that's very important to mention. So I don't know if we need to have more than 5 questions.
Okay, that's a good point. I guess I was just looking for
Anybody who's there could always just talk a little bit about their experience as a board member. I think Matthew has his hand raised.
Thank you, Rita. I was about ready to say, you got to it before I did. Hello, Matthew. I hear you better if you're not muted.
Isn't it amazing about technology? It only works when you follow the directions. I think it may be worth considering having a quote 6th or 9th, or we're having an extra question at the end to ask the people what questions they have for us, what we didn't ask of them that they thought that they expected us to ask of them, and use that as an opportunity to let them carry the ball for a bit and give us another perspective on their candidacy.
So, sir, what did we not ask, or is there anything else that they wanted to offer? Is that what you're talking about, Matthew?
Sure. Open the door wide. Open the door wide for the person to present him or herself.
That's
beyond the introductory stuff. Now that we've gone through the process and we're almost done, we don't want to close it off without giving you a chance to perhaps there's some questions you hadn't thought of asking. Now you've heard us, please.
That's perfect. That is perfect. Thank you. All right, for those who are able to give me questions in advance, thank you so much. And even before Miss Andrea knows, she's being asked to wordsmith some more questions. So, all right. So I'm going to move us on to the review, the request for the ARPA funds, which is attachment number 2. And I don't know if this is Sam or Susan or both.
Sam and Clint and Shannon was there. Dr. Piazza also, and Ken Knight. It was really a team effort. I wrote about it in board notes that we were, the town manager let us know that it was due like a week away or a week and a half away. So we had pulled together. These were some of the items that we had identified in our school-based district safety committee as things that we really felt we needed for school safety. And I think that when the shooting in Texas happened, it really put a jolt in all of us once again, saying, what can we do better? And so Sam actually runs our safe school committee, our safety committee, and we meet with fire department, police department, administration. You know, Clint, I think you've been on that committee as well with technology. Phil and I join in. I think the student data manager, I think he goes to everything. So he's probably there too. But it really is a time when we showcase, you know, what's happening in the schools, you know, how the school plans and the district plans align. And out of that, I'm going to let Clint talk to you a little bit about the cameras, and also Sam is here to kind of fill you in. While we don't make those plans public, one of the things that we've worked really hard on this whole summer is to do a nice, easy flip chart. The plans usually come about 2 inches thick for each school, and they're, you know, they've really been thought out and they align to the district plan. But it's really important that in an emergency, whether it's your secretary, you know, who is front and center, or your teachers, anyone can just really flip to the guidelines. So we're really excited. That has been a big project this summer, and we're excited to see that one through. So I'm going to turn it to you, Clint and Sam, and you all can add to this.
Great, I'll launch. Hi, everybody. So I'm going to talk about two main items that were kind of fell under my purview. Camera systems, cameras and security and access therefore, as well as additional connectivity between Fitch High School and GMS. I will talk kind of big picture, what the purpose of this was, what the process that we did to come up with this. In an earlier meeting, I know there was some discussion as far as getting into the very fine details and the appropriateness of sharing, you know, exactly what the tech that goes in, whether that becomes a concern, a security vulnerability or not. So I'm going to share big picture and certainly answer any questions, but can certainly follow up as needed. So we currently have security camera systems in all of our schools as well as central office. They are kind of unique islands, if you will, where they're all their own systems. Really, the intent of this project is twofold. One, to build capacity both internally and externally for security cameras so that we can fill the needs of school administrators, teachers, Groton Police Department, and so forth, but then also unify all of that so that these are not unique systems that require access within an individual school building. We're trying to get to the point where we can have appropriate and secure access anytime, anywhere by the appropriate people who need access to this, ongoing to investigate issues that may take place, or God forbid, a real-time incident where school administration, police department, fire department, or others need real-time access to our schools. I can't provide that to them currently, anytime, anywhere. With this system, we will be able to get to that. Again, in a secure fashion and an appropriate fashion so that only those who should be having access to it indeed have access to it, and that is tested and provided ahead of time as opposed to in a crisis when it's needed. So this laundry list, I'm looking at the budget page of this, really includes cameras, again, inside, outside mounts, additional video storage, licensing, and then the ability to unify all of these cameras into one system, secure system that can be seen. So that really is the intent of this project overall, as to meet the needs of those requirements that came out of the school safety committee that I am indeed part of. So that's kind of part one. The second one, much more quickly, currently there is no connectivity, fiber optic connectivity between Fitch High School and Groton Middle School. With both of them being on the same campus, I'm looking for two things. One, some redundancy in the system because those two buildings are so close and fiber optic cable is charged by the mile typically. But also two, should this take place, we could look in the future where instead of bringing external internet access to both schools, we can bring it to one and then offload to the other. So it gives us opportunities and choices down the road when we start talking about budget and reliability and the like. So those are really big picture of the two projects. One, squarely from requirements of the School Safety and Security Committee around cameras and access to those cameras. And the other is a fiber optic cable that we would string underground from Fitch High School to Groton Middle School. That would be a very large data pipe that we would have options on how we use that immediately as well as in the future.
Does anyone have any questions on the cameras? And I think that in live time, the police department would be able to see into all the buildings, which is really one of the things that I think we've needed for a long time, and it would be very, very protective. When we do our drills, we usually have fire department come out, which that really is very helpful. They give us honest feedback and it helps us to do it better the next time. But for those folks who are our safety, community members, this would really be a plus to have a look into our buildings to see that everything is okay or not.
Yes.
Yes, Andrea. And sorry. Andrea.
If you can't answer this, that's fine.
Sure.
But will both the town and the city police departments be able to see into the schools?
I would build a system with these dollars that would allow that to happen. Sure.
So both the city and the town police departments would be able to have access.
It would be
To the
technologically
school.
feasible as a feature of this to do that absolutely.
Right.
From a squad car, from headquarters, what have
For instance, Thames River is really in the city
you. Sure.
side, and they're the ones who do respond, as well as their fire departments, so we'd have to make sure.
And tested it beforehand.
I have Rita and then Beverly.
Could you tell me, I just want to lower my hand. What is the timeline for installing things? And I know because the funds cover from, what is it, March 3rd, 2021 to December 31st, 2024. So what is your timeline in terms of, will we get everything all at once? Is this going to be spread out over time?
So Rita, on page 8,
Yeah, I didn't,
has
I was looking for exactly how it was going to be done, but I couldn't quite understand it. I
okay,
see.
so on the bottom of 8, so maybe Clint, can you speak more to that?
Sure. And Susan, if you could please jump in, because the latest update I got in response to when we might be seeing these funds should be, they be granted to us, was October, correct?
Oh,
I believe September to October. Again, this is a town decision on how these will be dealt out and so forth, because this was an application that anyone in the community could do.
When I spoke to John Burt, he's hired for the town, an ARPA coordinator. So he has a full-time employee that's doing this work, and he's looking at all of the applications. And he said he received a lot of them, and that it was taking longer than they expected. So I know that we handed it in right before school ended.
Sure.
Because we had limited time, to get it in, but we did.
So if I could expand on that, just as a hypothetical, let's say that dollars were allotted to us, say October 1st, and I'm just making that up, but let's say that's the case. We would then go through the process of selecting a vendor through the appropriate rules of purchasing and so forth. This type of equipment has come back in stock quite a bit over the last 6 to 12 months, so I'm less worried about getting that in. I'm hesitant to commit to a time frame, but if those dollars are available October 1, I would love to be working on this immediately and having some, a 3-month time span to get from start to finish of that project.
Thank you.
And if I may, at the bottom of page 12, it does say, similar to what Clint was just talking about, if the project start date, this lists September, but even if it's October, it looks like it's about a year out to total completion. It lists December 31st, 2023 as the completion date. And that includes cameras and the fiber optics.
What is your priority though, in terms of what you would do first?
I would leave that to Clint. I'm not sure of what the process is for the fiber optics. I would assume the camera installation might be easier. Is that correct, Clint, or am I way off?
Yeah, no, there's the low hanging fruit, so to speak, would be for us to immediately start populating some of these schools where we've identified. And again, I built this list in collaboration with all the building principals and their own security committees and so forth. So we could start at the same time that we're actually installing new cameras, both internally and externally within schools. We could be working on the back end that we're standing up this unified web management system and so forth. So those can be done in parallel, if you will, as we stand those up. Again, assuming things don't change and there's a run on cameras and I'm being told that there's a 4 to 6 week delay or what have you. I put this together for purposes to adhering to the requirements of the grant, and then we follow the purchasing process and go forward from there.
Thank you.
Beverly?
Thank you, Kim. So Clint, I understand that you're gonna start with the cameras first. That's what I'm hearing?
I
Correctly?
would want to start with cameras first, absolutely.
Okay. What's the lifetime use of these cameras? Do you know? And do they have a warranty?
They do have a warranty, depending on how much we want to purchase them for. There can be the traditional warranty, which is 3 to 5 years standard. There's additional warranties that could be added on top of that. Sam, please double check me on this because I'm still here a year. But we have cameras that are new as of a year or two ago, and we also have cameras that are still in service from 7, 8, 9 years ago. really the difference that makes this system work well is you see the term IP. IP camera is an internet protocol camera, meaning that it runs on the same network cables that we have Wi-Fi access and we plug computers into. We now have our phone system on. So it's one network that can run all of this data as opposed to having to wire a parallel separate network on top of that that's dedicated just to a security system. So it's easier for me to put more of these in and leverage our existing network and what we've spent as a town over the many years to build these networks. Anything new that we purchase here, I would expect to last, 7 to 10 years, and we will continue to utilize any IP-based cameras that have already been put into the district over the last 5 to 7 years.
Okay, thank you. Do you think the price for the two, I know it's coming from a fund, but do you think the price for the two-way radio, $3,000 each, is that expensive or is that the normal price?
I'm going to hand that off to my colleague, Sam.
I guess expensive is a matter of opinion, I guess. But if you want units that are going to talk throughout the town, you have to spend that kind of money for those kind of radios.
I
We
think
have
the police
regular
department-
walkie-talkies that'll go from a couple hundred feet, but we really want to have communication throughout the district. So it does cost us kind of money for those.
So that would
Yeah.
be like for kind of your central crisis center, usually in the principal's office, to have the kind of system that could talk to police department, fire department on their same line, so that if we needed immediate attention, we would have it. And that was actually the police department's recommendation, I believe, or fire departments that we. look
Yeah,
at
it was
this
from the
particular-
it was from the police and the DEMHS, Department of Homeland Security, also use those same radios. So they would be they could be used if you change the channel. If you switch the channel, you can actually talk between buildings. Or if you're on the same channel, if there's an event, you could be talking to the police, fire department, Homeland Security, or anybody else who would be on that band.
And one last question. Can you explain the Merit film installed by Electronic Security Solutions? What is that? Is that the film, Sam, that you were talking about putting on the windows?
Yeah.
Or is that something different?
Yeah, that's the film that we've already installed on part of Thames River and Mystic River magnet schools. So it's a reflective film. It makes it more difficult to break through the glass to get into the building. It's not impossible, but it would take somebody a very long time, and of course, it would give anybody inside the building that much more time to escape and head to a different direction.
Thank you both.
Beverly, I think though your question is pretty important when we think about if we get this, it's the upkeep, which I believe is sort of what you're alluding to in terms of in future years, how do we continue to support that in the budget?
Right, that's what I was.
Okay. Good. That's a good, I mean, obviously we want to continue this on because it's the security of our school district, but it is important for us to think that this is amazing. I'm glad that we're going to be moving forward with this, but we are down the lines. The board's going to have to be thinking about that.
And so the last item that I can think of is the flip chart that was developed by Adam Diskin at the Fitch High School. Ted Kelleher brought in a flip chart from his old high school, and there was a flip chart that was developed by the state police shortly after Sandy Hook, a colorized flip chart which gave you instruction on what to do in certain emergency situations. So Adam has really taken the bull by the horns on this. He's developed it, and we're going to use it throughout the district. And we should have some samples here pretty soon of those. And once we have the samples, we'll get them into you at the board meeting.
Yes, and I would say a subcommittee, including Sam and others, central office and building administration have worked on this and reviewed it over and over again to make sure, we have it accurately. So we can actually roll it out virtual. It's going to have a virtual rendition as well as a published version in print. So we're going to be able to speak to principals before the start of the school year about this.
I know that we had some basic conversations about this in about a month ago, but I just feel it was just so important for us to take a look at the completed grant request because we have been talking about what security is. So I think that it was good to have Clint and Sam here to kind of talk about that. Beverly.
Well, I just want to say that this security, I know for probably most board members, is a priority in our school district. And so I want to thank both of you, Clint and Sam, for putting it, and Susan, my bad, Susan, you too.
No,
And the committee and whoever else is involved for
No,
putting this
thank you.
together to keep our students safe. I mean, they might not be 100% safe, but at least we're close to it. So thank you.
Here.
Yes.
Is this done in? I'm sorry, has this already gone in?
Oh, yeah. We
Oh,
had
yeah.
like a week to
Yeah.
turnaround time, and so we got it in at the end of June.
Waiting for the response from the town.
We're just waiting for the town.
Beverly, do you have another question? Oh, I guess not. Where does she go? Oh, there she goes. Sorry, you travel, everyone, when you put your hand down, you travel within the screen. So it's that time of year where we talk about, believe it or not, CIPs.
I don't think we ever stopped talking about them.
Well, but when they come forward to us to take a look to be put into our next year's budget. Sam,
Yes.
Susan, bye Clint, thank you.
I'll be across the hall.
Well, Sam put together this nifty little chart that you found in your packet, and I'll let him speak to it.
Yeah, so we have these projects that we've been submitting to the town for a few years now. And some of these items we've decided to fund ourselves with funding that Susan has found. So the first one is the field house renovation. You may recall that we are interested in taking a look at the old field house, or the what I call the concession stand, and the main field house, and trying to develop a space in there for changing rooms, showers, et cetera, for female athletes as well, so that we have a little more equity between the sexes regarding athletes. So that one is that one is already underway. Amy Samuelson, who designed the middle school, is the architect that is also working on that project with her organization SLAM. The culinary arts renovation, again at Fitch High School, again, SLAM is also working on that project. They have taken some measurements and they're developing a plan presently for that. And again, we agreed that Board of Ed expenses or operations would pay for that. So that one is also ongoing. We have a study on HVAC, heating, ventilation, air conditioning in the vintage part of Fitch High School, and also Charles Barnum School, which Fuss and O'Neill will provide to us. They're working on that project. And those will come from some of the ESSER funds. And the football field recrowning, which we have asked the town about on numerous occasions, on I think probably 5 or 6 years, we've been asking about that. The last time I went, I spoke to the town planning department when we were talking about CIPs. They were concerned that the field task force was developing a plan for that field. And I believe that not only planning, but probably beyond planning into town council, although I don't want to speak for them, but my understanding is that most people felt that we should wait to find out what that study provides us with to determine whether we want to spend $250,000 recrowning a field that may be upgraded into an artificial field. I know that the field committee task force is also thinking about turning the field about 90 degrees and upgrading the bleachers and the track all at the same time. So those things are still in flux, and so that's where we are with that one. Northeast Academy, we were approved for some drainage work at Northeast Academy. We just received the plans for that, and our plan is to do that. We'll be talking to the contractors and determining whether we'll be able to complete that during a spring break in the next spring. And if it can't be done during that week, we will do it next summer. So that project would be going on next summer. And of course, a roof replacement at Charles Barnum. It's been approved, but we need to select an architect. So we're working on interviewing. We'll be interviewing architects in the near future to determine who will lead that project for Charles Barnum School. In the meantime, we continue to, well, actually, we haven't had many problems on that roof in about a year. So we did make some repairs over there about a year ago, and we haven't had any complaints since. So, but by the same token, I'm looking outside because the sun is shining again today, and we're not expecting rain anytime soon. So, but we'll be looking at that as we determine who the architect will be for that project. So I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Jay, did the CIPs go through the finance and facilities?
Yes, they did.
Okay. Was there a, Bev, I got you, I promise. Did the finance and fence, wow, whatever your committee
Yeah.
that you do, did that have recommendations about the CIPs that the board, that they would want the board to really pay attention?
We did not make any specific recommendations because that was our first look.
Okay. All right, thank you. Beverly.
Sam, as far as the football field recrowning, is that a, because it's being held up, is there any safety issues in letting that go for a while?
Well, some people are concerned about that. I think probably the best thing to do before the football season actually starts is to get out there and take another look at it and have Public Works out there with me and take a look at it. I think that, well, first of all, the recrowning itself is more for drainage than it is for anything else, but some people are concerned that there are divots and things like that on the field, and that could be taken care of with a large roller. So I would talk to Public Works and see if they could roll the field before we start the season.
Which is going to start soon.
Yes.
Okay, that's good because it might get held up again because of what you're saying. They want to do everything at the same time with the athletic field task force. So if we can do anything to minimize students getting hurt out there, that would be great.
Bev, I'm going to just tag team on that for just a second. Jay, who's the chairperson of the task force for the fields?
It's a Mr. Narosky. And we are actually going to meet on the 18th for the first time in many, many months, just to see where everything is at. It's all being held up by the Gloucester site visioning project. Sadly, the Public Works representative who has been shepherding this through is leaving Groton. I believe he's moving to East Lyme. So there's going to be a little more transition there. And yes, we brought up this safety issue every single year. It doesn't seem to have moved the council. I believe one of them actually said, well, it's a dangerous sport anyway.
Terrific.
So, yeah, okay. I don't have a question for him yet. So Matthew,
Thank you. The items that we just looked at are ones that we've heard of before. Do you folks have any ideas if there'll be any new additions to this list as we move into budget season? Or is this the totality of our needs for the coming year as you see them?
No, it's not the totality. Susan and I will be meeting probably early fall to discuss what we want to submit in the next round.
Thank
I
you.
think, I think we were prioritizing, Matthew, our needs, like the things that we were having plans for were three of the most important things that we've been hearing about, the field house and culinary arts, and then the HVAC. So those are really three top priorities we kind of want to see through fruition. And we know that, you know, if you put too many things on the list, they kind of get pushed to the next year and pushed to the next year.
and when will we have, Matthew, I'm sorry. When will we have the information about, from the architect about the field house and the culinary arts?
Don't have a date on it, but I'll check into that and get back to you.
Because that's gonna
Wasn't
be,
it Slam? Was Slam doing both of them?
Yes.
Beverly?
I'm sorry, you asked my question, Kim. I should have lowered my hand. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Because I guess we're gonna need to know that if you're gonna put that as a CIP.
Right.
And cost of plans funded, so that we've agreed to pay for the plans.
Yes.
Okay,
And once we get that, SLAM will also give us an estimate of what it will cost to do that, and then we could submit that for the CIP. I'm sure it's going to be well above a number that we can handle in-house. So.
any other questions about the CIPs?
No,
Right, continuing on with It's That Time of Year. Update on transportation, which we thought we should begin to talk about the bus contract and also bus routes.
Okay, first item is the bus contract, and Ken and I have selected Mike Kennedy as a consultant to work with us in looking over the existing contract and coming up with bid specs for a new contract. And we're hoping to go out in early November with the bid package to provide new services. So we'll be looking at all the different aspects of the contract. For instance, the 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., the 12, oh, Ken's there. I didn't know Ken was there. The 12-hour use of the buses, the number of buses that we have, the age of the buses, when they need to be replaced, et cetera. Fuel, right now we pay for fuel. Is that the best way to do it, or should we have them pay for fuel? So we're going to look at all aspects of this contract with Mr. Kennedy.
And who is Mr. Kennedy?
He's no relation to Clint Kennedy. He's a consultant. He owned a bus company. He's worked in the bus field for many, many years. He actually worked in Groton back when Hugh Hunter was here on bus contracts. So he's familiar with our town and is ready to go. So we sent our existing contract off to him the other day so that he can get a look at that. We'll be talking to him in the near future. Want to add anything to that, Ken?
No, I think you covered most of it, but he's the one that has led us towards November being the best time to go out to bid, and I think that's sound advice. So we're looking forward to doing that.
Yeah, we were thinking September, but as he pointed out, everybody, including our teachers, are all, even bus companies, are still getting their feet wet, and a lot of things going on in September. So if we could give them a little more time to get settled in, November would be a good time. You want to do it before the new year so that you get lots of participation, lots of bids, hopefully. because these companies line their work up for the following year as soon as possible. So if we go out in early November, it should be in pretty good shape.
I'm gonna do Andrea, then you, Beverly.
I just have a comment for Sam, and that is if Mr. Kennedy worked with Uncle Ebenezer, he'll get us.
Oh, that's what you call
Beverly,
Does the attorney look at the contract also? Or-
Yeah, once we have an idea what we're going to do, we'll have our attorney go through it and make sure that it's all legit.
And how long is the contract good for usually?
Well, this contract, we renewed a couple of different times, apparently once since I got here, but it was renewed once before I got here. So, but they're usually 3 to 5 years. I believe most contracts are 3 to 5 years.
And how much are we paying Mr. Kennedy?
I don't think I've had a final number yet, but we're in the $5,000 range.
Okay. And probably services, he's worth every bit of that.
Absolutely.
So,
Okay, thank you.
Rita,
Hi, yes. In the past, the negotiating committee had looked over the bus contracts. And the last time we were not involved, and I'm hoping that the board will be involved this time. Helping to select. In years past, the board has been involved. And I think it's very important that we are. And also, my other question is, have you thought about going with some of the other towns in the area and maybe pooling so that you might get a better deal? I know sometimes Learn has some towns that they've gotten together and they've been able to negotiate a better contract.
Ken has
So,
an answer to that. Yeah.
yeah. I know Groton has, we're a large district. Some of the other districts are smaller, so it behooves them to merge with other districts, but it does help, and I just want to stress that it's very important when we do go through this, that we talk about whether or not their buses will be electrified by the date that the state of Connecticut has recommended. That's all. Thank you.
Ken, do you want to answer some of Rita's?
yeah, we will reach out to Learn and find out if there's any way that we can team up with other districts. I know that there are a number of STA districts in our area, so perhaps they're also looking at the same time.
Well, I just hope we don't just look at STA. I mean,
No. I'm just saying that I was just mentioning that there's other districts in the area that use STA that may be looking to rebid.
redo contract. Yes, thank you.
And we will definitely include that in the contract about the electrified bus fleet.
Right. And I know we've talked about seatbelts in the past, but that doesn't seem to it's never going to happen, but who knows?
I keep saying navigation systems. And
Yes.
they say there's a law against it, which I cannot believe, but we did get our cameras. We did get new cameras on those buses. So that was quite a feat.
Actually, when Learn had their vans, they did have the navigation and they were able to track whether or not a driver was speeding.
Well, we have GPS on.
Yeah, we can
the
track
buses.
them, but they can't use the information to get from one place to another. So it's
Oh,
not
they
like the GPS that we use or even their phones.
Oh, that's awful.
It's awful, especially if it's a
Yeah.
new driver. They have to follow a piece of paper and they have to be stopped to look down at their paper.
Yeah, well, let's hope that they do stop, that they don't drive and look at it.
Right. Or ask the kids, how do I get there?
Yeah.
Tell them. It's a long way.
Yeah. Matthew,
I will show my new member diapers yet again. I'm hoping we will.
as a visual, I really just don't need Matthew.
Okay. Training panels. Whatever.
That's worse.
You're making me laugh, my friend. Is there any possibility, I mean, I don't know what you've done in the past or what we've done in the past, but are there any in-state providers, either existing? I know there's one company up in the New Britain area that does some school bus areas up there. I don't know if Curtin or Joshua would be look at this as a possible way to expand their businesses. I leave it up to you. I just throw that out, that if we can get a Connecticut-based company, we'll be helping our state and ourselves. And finally, I do hope that we will try one electric bus, at least whenever we do go electric, we'll have problems. Let's try them on a small scale basis first. Thank you.
This will be going out to public bid, so there are 4 or 5 different bus companies that will probably bid this. At least that's what we're hoping for. Some are Connecticut companies, a couple of Rhode Island companies.
Okay.
Matthew, are you done with your questions?
I'm done. I apologize.
I don't apologize. Beverly,
Sam, at the finance committee meeting, you gave us the cost of an electric bus. Maybe you might want to talk about the cost of the electric bus. And another question is, for Curtin Transportation, who negotiates their contract? And another question is it feasible? I see Waterford has small vans, and Stonington also has a small van, a couple of small vans where they must do some kind of transportation of their students. Do we have anything like that?
No, we don't have anything like that. In order to do that, you have to hire employees too to drive them. So that would be a question for you, the board, to determine that we wanted to go that route. I think it's been asked before and probably looked at before, but maybe it's time to look at it again as a possibility. But the Curtin rates we will be looking at too coming up later in the fall.
is it on the same contract cycle?
No, they're separate.
Is it a yearly contract?
No, I don't believe it's an annual contract.
Ken, do you know the answer, or do the rates change annually?
I don't know the answer to that. I'll have to look into that.
Because that's a really good point. And what's the cost? Beverly now has me curious. What is the cost of an electric bus?
$400,000. I went to a Learn Electric Bus meeting and I asked some of those questions, and there are grants available, but you know, they come with a lot of stipulation. But there were quite a few districts seated around the table, you know, interested in how do you get started, just like you said, Matthew. And but I think the biggest challenge is to make sure that you have the actual electricity hubs, or whatever they're called, for the buses to charge. And so that was also a question that they were contemplating.
Yeah, you have to have the infrastructure in order to have the buses, but and again, the buses at this point, unless the contract changes, would be purchased by
Right.
whoever the contractor is that wins the bid. So it would be up to them whether they would.
But I think the district goes for the grant, so there has to be some collaboration in all of that.
Right.
So Jay, do you think that the finance and facilities would want to ponder the feasibility of doing the small van transport, and what that would cost, whether it would be cost efficient instead of going to Beverly? I'm assuming, like, instead of doing like a Curtin, to have our own like small transportation. Did that
Well,
make sense?
I know we've discussed that before. In other words, taking on that burden of buying our own fleet, maintaining it. So now we'd have to hire our own mechanics. We'd be doing a lot of things in parallel with what Curtin and STA do now. We'd have to have our own garage space. We'd have to invest in that. And then, of course, we'd be competing against Curtin and STA for the drivers, I would think. So, yeah, I mean, we can certainly look at that again, but it just seems to me that we've made a decision, we're going to contract out certain things that are not really in our wheelhouse. And do we want to make that investment? Like where would we put the garage? What land do we have? Do we want to keep one of the other schools? There's a lot to think about by taking on a third fleet.
There are some districts that do that, but they're usually very small districts
I know, Montel.
that try to do that themselves.
I'm gonna recognize Beverly and then Rita.
Yeah, I was only gonna say what Susan said, like Waterford does it, Stonington. And they don't transport all their students. It's mostly the special ed students, I think, that they might transport. But we could find out from them how they do it also.
Yep. that's a
I mean,
good
they
point.
still use a bus company and they still use Curtin.
Right, it might be worth looking at whether we might even just have a couple for special occasions. I know we've had to hire a taxi to come and pick up kids or move parents and stuff for special needs over the last year. So something like that might come into play at some point, but again, the committee can look at that.
Rita?
When Stonington purchased their vans, small vans for special ed a few years ago, they saved quite a bit of money, but they are a much smaller district. And I believe we did some research on that and it wasn't cost effective for Groton since we have so many special ed students to transport. But I would agree with Sam that it would be great to have a couple of small vans ourselves. That's it. And also the bus company, whoever we do arrange, I hope they have some smaller buses because so many of those buses, I think it would be good to have some small buses, especially when we're transporting across town to a magnet school.
Did you want to say anything about that?
That's it. Well, no, that's a great idea to talk to Mr. Kennedy about adding that feature to our contract, potentially looking at having a couple of small vans. They call the shorter buses vans in the bus trade, but we be talking about minivans essentially. So that's an excellent idea. So I think we'll include that when we talk to Mr. Kennedy next.
Great, thank you.
Going back to like whether we should have our own, a couple, I would want to see if there's a way that we could partner with Park and Recs in Groton, because they have vehicles themselves, and I'm wondering if there's a way that we could, if we know that a group of parents or kids need to get from point A to point B, there is a couple of transport vans that they have that maybe we
And
could
the
use.
senior center too.
But that's
We
what I
had
meant,
called
Park and
them.
Recs, so-
Yeah, we had called them, I think, in the heat of
We did, yeah,
everything
right.
last year to see if we could partner, but I don't think that worked out.
We run into situations sometimes where we have to pick up one child because they're homeless. That might be
in a
slightly
hotel.
out of district, but they're one of our students, so we need to go and get them. And there are times when Curtin is not available, so.
I guess that would be important for the board to have record about how often those needs are there. Because at what point, what's the tipping point between paying a transportation and versus owning our own vehicle? So to Rita and Jay's point, I'm not saying that we should discuss that again. I just always feel that sometimes we should at least kind of say, does it make sense for us to look at it? I am not married to that idea at all. It doesn't seem like that would be feasible for us because we would need to go, I think, the whole shebang, and I'm not quite sure we want to be in the business of owning a transportation system. But thank you for your input, Jay, on that. If there's no other questions about the bus contracts, can we go to the bus routes, please?
Sure. And so the bus routes, Jenny and Evelyn have been working nonstop around the clock over the weekend, so on and so forth. They unfortunately each year they have to wait until we get a rollover and get all the names in, and it seems to take a very long time before that happens. So they got them last week. They completed the routes as of today. They got them to STA. We've asked STA to do their dry runs this week. and return the information to us, their comments by Friday, which will give Jenny and Evelyn an opportunity on the 22nd, Monday, the 22nd, and possibly the 23rd, depending on how many corrections or adjustments we need to make. So we're hoping that it'll only take the 22nd so that we can post it on the 23rd. Hopefully the latest it would be posted would be the 24th.
And students will not come until the 30th
30th.
for first grade through 12th. And we'll be screening our preschool and kindergartners, and they come in the following week after Labor Day. So it allows our transportation team and the bus drivers to get our older kids in and out, and we're able to orient the littlest ones, and then they start arriving the following week.
Yeah, there is a freshman orientation, and we've already arranged those bus routes already for freshman orientation. That's all set, which I think is Tuesday of next week. Is it Tuesday? It's, I don't know, it's pretty soon.
And Tom is on here. He's actually done a lot of work, and he's great at answering questions and helping out. Did you want to say anything or add anything, Tom?
No, I think Sam did a good job, but if there's any questions that Sam would like me to jump in on, I'm happy to do that.
Well, Jay, how about if you start off?
Thank you. First of all, I just want to say I really appreciate that so much hard work has been done over the summer to get these routes to SDA early this year so they can do these dry runs. I think last year, given that, you know, the new schools were opening, this was not feasible. And I think that may have contributed to some of the confusion at the beginning of the year. So I think this is just fantastic that this team has come together and put these routes together. However, I'm not unaware that these routes will change daily between now and the end of the school year. I do realize that students come and go in and out of district, in and out of town. I do know that some of the magnet schools do very delayed invites to students when they realize that they've got space, and it's very important for them to fill those spaces to get their state aid. So I realize it's a never-ending project to keep these routes up to date. And so I don't want to act as though, you know, this is final. And I realize they work, you know, to make all those adjustments. And then there's also the issue that, you know, even if the student, you know, we have to leave space on every bus to take every student in that neighborhood, even if maybe they change during the year, maybe due to custody changes or whatever. So I realize it's a big puzzle, and I just want to say thank you to everybody who's involved with bringing that together.
We have tried to streamline some of the magnet school, and they are mostly in hubs. With Ledyard, there was one bus that only had 3 students. So I know Tom was reaching out to the families on that bus to see if they were riding or not, if we could save a bus. So to actually, you know, opt out or to have some kind of a hub system, they can always opt back in, but at least that would help us with some of those magnet runs and other runs. So.
Matthew?
Yes, I was wondering whether it's Susan or one of the other folks. Do we have any sense of when new boats are going to become coming into the sub-base, or at least crews and training for new boats, and what that might mean and when?
Well, I wrote about this in board notes, Matthew. Miranda's actually on with us. She's wonderful liaison with the families and with the schools. But one of the things I had mentioned was this year, many people on the boats came with orders to Groton, but many families are waiting to get their orders to leave Groton. So we have this anomaly where we have kind of an overflow. which is fine. I hope they stay till October 1 for our impact aid numbers. I don't know, Miranda, did you want to add to that in any way?
I really don't have anything to add. I don't, unfortunately, that information doesn't come. If a boat comes, we don't, the families don't always come with it. They come at a schedule on where their transition points would be. So it's a trickle in. So at this point, we aren't aware of any mass movement increasing or decreasing students in the district.
Okay.
Matthew, do you have more to that? Nope.
Could I just make one more comment?
Please.
You know, Jay's point was excellent, and I just want to reiterate that his point is that when a new student comes onto the bus route or one is taken off of the bus route, it changes the times. If it's a house-to-house stop, it could change the time of everybody else in front of or in back of that student on that bus. So that's why Jenny and Evelyn are updating these routes all the time and sending these things out to parents as soon as possible. So it may be just a few minutes, but when parents are waiting for a bus, it's critical that we get those time changes out to the parents as quickly as we can. So
We also communicate to parents that we usually give ourselves a day or two to get that work done, so it's done properly and it gets communicated, and they're usually very agreeable to that.
And the other thing that we're asking parents to do this year specifically is if they have a bus issue, to call us here at the Board of Ed
Right.
rather than STA, the bus or any other bus company that we may have in the future. They should talk to the transportation office, and we will resolve those problems right here.
We're gonna make sure that information is loud and clear on the website, you know, on our Facebook page, so that they know that number to call, because there's always someone here that can answer it. And I think they do a really nice job in really listening to families, especially if a parent calls and they have concerns about a child not arriving, they stay with that parent and they get it resolved at our end.
So I'm going to recognize Beverly, Jay. Before that, Tom, thank you for bringing in your newest family member. I love that. Thank you. Beverly.
Susan, do we communicate with the parents way in advance that the bus routes could change if a student comes in or if a student leaves, so they know? I know you said you do it if that happens, but do we let them know in advance that that could happen? And the bus routes might
That's
change.
a really good point, Beverly. I think it should be somewhere on our Facebook and maybe even in my intro, you know, as I'm communicating kind of every other day now, getting them ready to come back to school. I think that is a good point to make. I know that when Joyce started getting the calls and we worked with the bus company, and when we knew that there were bus drivers not there and new drivers coming in and they were, you know, combining some routes, we would at least let the parents know in the morning and in the afternoon so they could be aware that the times would be different.
And I think if we had a major change in times, we'd actually do an all call to
Yeah.
the kids on that bus or to the parents.
Yeah, we were
of the kids
communicating
on that
through
bus.
school messenger. And they appreciated that. That made a big difference.
Jay?
Thank you. And I do remember receiving communications that school bus routes were subject to change at any time. And I believe they used to give us like a 15-minute window on either side. So, you know, I forget exactly how that was communicated, but it was kind of like a thing that everybody knows, that if we say the bus is going to be there at 7:05, it's not going to be there at 7:05, 180 days a year. But yeah, to your point, I think that, you know, especially for newer parents, that messaging is going to be critical. The other thing that I wanted to mention was do we have any insight yet from STA about their hiring efforts and what they expect their staffing levels to be, because I know that was a major issue last year.
Yeah, they've reported that they're fully staffed,
+3.
+3
extra
at this point.
I think I had put that in board notes as well, but we've been checking in on them on a regular basis. And it looks much better this year than it did last year.
Oh, just real quick, Susan, I can't get board notes because I can't get onto Outlook.
So Beverly, thank you for saying that, because Clint asked me to make a list of the board members that were having difficulty. So thank you.
Can you give Joyce your actual address that she should be sending it to? If anybody, I know A Noank is sitting next to me. So we've had hers, and I think she's actually listed as a board member on the board, chain that goes out. So if you have a different email that you use other than the Groton schools, then please send it to Joyce and she can fix that right away.
I think she knows that. I sent her email today saying I
Oh,
was
okay.
having.
All right, I'll
Okay.
double check with her tomorrow morning.
Okay, thanks, Susan.
Thanks, Bev. Right, are there any more questions around the buses stuff? All right, if not, it's that time of year. We're gonna talk about enrollments.
So I put
What's
that in board
happening?
notes too. We have a lot of kindergartners. And there really a lot of kindergartners coming in, military children. Charles Barnum is almost really at capacity. I always use what the board's recommendations are. We would like to see 20 in K1, 22 in 3-4 and 24, but there are times when we have more than that. This time we had 38 students, as they said in the board notes, completed registration. And so Tom was really working with families and, trying to fill as many of them in the neighborhoods that are going either to Thames River or Charles Barnum in those school districts. But then there were separate streets that we could take really a whole group of them to Northeast Academy, which really only had 14, 15 per class, and they have 4 tiers. And then also CK. So he really did a phenomenal job and talked to families, and they really accepted those seats, excited about, the different, possibilities of the themes in the magnet schools that they're going to, and the fact that their neighboring kids are going to be together. So, and then any siblings that had to go with. So we really try not to separate families. We try to keep them together. At one point I was thinking I might have to use the FTA that was saved in a 3rd grade to use in a kindergarten, but it's really hard to find a place to put them because our schools are really filled. And I think between this plan, and also we're taking in 18 to 20 transition K students at Thames River, we'll be able to draw, and they're really coming out of all the different schools, including CB. So that's really good news that, we have another classroom, another FTE with the transition K. And so some of those very young 4-year-olds who've had kind of limited preschool, they'll be able to go to the very successful transition kindergarten program. And we'll just wait and see how many more. I think there were 7 more that registered today. Gigi gives me a morning announcement every day to tell me how she's doing with it. So.
Bev, were you lying? Okay, there you are.
Oh, yeah, thank you, Kim. Susan, did you say you had one grade that had over the number of students that the board recommends?
The kindergarten is coming in several schools with 21.
Instead of 20?
Instead of 20.
Okay.
And it could be 22, so we're just monitoring it, across the district.
At what number do you decide to split the class? Or at what number do you decide to put a paraprofessional in that class? Or is there one already in there?
So per the teacher's contract, we actually have marching orders. And it's usually up to 27, 28, I remember, in the upper grades. So I would have to, check to see. I don't foresee anything like that. I'm just monitoring those K classrooms. We do have K aides in the morning and in the afternoon, and we do have paraprofessionals working with our special education students. But it's something we're trying to keep right on top of, but it's coming in fast and furious as we continue to get closer to school. And we started this process so much earlier this year. So we thought we were really ahead of the game.
And do we have parents who are trying to make their own decisions about what schools our kids are going to?
So we've had a lottery process, and really parents are able to go to the home school that they are districted to, or they were able to sign up for the lottery. So the lottery has really been fully run. There are some military seats in the lottery, so that, for kids who might be coming in now. But really the lottery process has been closed other than that.
So
Susan, did you say you can have 27 kids in kindergarten?
No, 20, we had Pleasant Valley, the year I came, had 27 in fourth grade. And we had to get a paraprofessional for that class.
Okay, and you said that's per teacher contract,
Yes.
but that's not,
We really haven't had something like that lately.
okay, good. Because
That was like
even though it's
2015.
per teacher contract, it's not an ideal situation.
No, the ideal is really the board recommendations. So we try to really do it within that, with that frame.
So how many students, like roughly, how many students that were to be going to X school is now going to go to Y school to meet to help with staffing? I mean,
I'll have to get you those numbers. It's still a moving target because they're still coming in.
Okay.
And so I can get you those numbers though.
So maybe that would be a really good question for us to have, like the end of September, where you could just fill the board in about how many, because that's going to impact transportation, I would assume.
It does. That's why we're kind of working with these neighborhood groups to come directly to the magnet school, so it won't extend their travel time.
So do people feel good about hearing about this again in the end of September?
Yes.
Thank
And
you.
I like to also hear about staffing at another meeting. What's the staffing like in our schools? Do we have enough staff? No, yes. How many people did we hire? Blah, blah, blah.
Yep, we can do that. That sounds like a Lori Lapine trip presentation.
Especially if we can have the blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
Rita.
That was my question also, the staffing.
Yep.
Yeah.
And actually it's on my side note board, is to do staffing and enrollment in a little bit later, so. Aha.
And also looking at the diversity of the staffing.
Right.
Perfect. Back to school. If there's, I'm sorry, is there any more questions about enrollment? We just want, I think Susan just was wanting to make sure that not only was it in the board notes, but that also that the board here, I think that Susan is presenting this as this is, well, I'm sure that this is just another day in the life of a superintendent, but that this is pretty big because it's like a moving parts.
Right,
And so she just wanted to keep the board updated about like all of the transportation and movement of children and families. So if not, let's go back to
So-
school.
As always, back to school is always about health and safety. And after our several years with a pandemic, it's still really not in the rearview mirror. As many of you know, over the summer, I certainly had a few family members and friends who still were getting COVID-19 in the summertime. So we have had continued our talks with Health Department, the Connecticut State Department of Education, the CDC finally came out with its recommendations, and I tried to put it as simply as possible in a back to school message that's going out to staff and families. I worked with my central office team and the principals. We actually developed a flow chart in talking to our physician, Groton Public Schools physician on, who helps support us. Denise was able to put together this really cool flow chart that we're gonna review in a couple days. So I'll make sure you get a copy of that. But I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible. It's kind of going back to when I was a kid in school. You monitor your health. If you don't feel good, you stay home, especially if you have a fever. And we're hoping to get more of our students and staff back 100% by this monitor, test, and go. So if you're not feeling good and you really need to take the day off, you need to take the day off. But if you're just feeling like an allergy or some of the symptoms, but not all of them, and they're very mild and you're fever-free, you haven't been around somebody or lived with somebody who's had COVID-19, you might want to wear a mask. It's optional. But if you are able to test negative and you feel well enough to come to school and there is no fever, you can come to school. And then we will be giving out test kits. We're going to ask people to monitor it for a couple days. We have a number that we're going to call. Sam made sure that we had enough test kits for the start of the year in the building. And then we're going to be receiving more kits and more masks. And, people still have the option to wear a mask if they feel like that would be a safer solution for them, students and staff. And now if you have a fever, you can't do this monitor test and go to school. You need to stay home. That's part of our health policy anyway. It's been known that sometimes kids will have a Tylenol before and they usually tell us, and then all of a sudden they spike the fever later on during the day. So we're really going to be, communicating to families. It's so important that if your child has a fever over the 100 degrees, that they should stay home. And it's a 24-hour period. That's also in our health guidelines, without medication. And then students who live with a person who's tested positive for COVID, that's another indication that you should really test and stay home. And then in the cases where students and staff should stay, and in these cases, they need to stay home until they've tested for COVID and the test of negative is a result before they come back to school. So we will be working with our principals. There won't be the contact tracing that we had last year that consumed them, fortunately. But I think it's going back to kind of the basics that monitor your health. If you're not feeling good, take the day off, test, check to see if you have COVID. And certainly if you've got a fever, you must stay home. Or if you've been in contact in a home environment with someone who's been positive, please stay home, take the test, and only return if you've been negative, and continue to take it. So that the idea is to get everybody back to community, back in our schools. And this is, and we'll be also monitoring how our community is doing. So remember the red light, green light, yellow light, when districts like ours in New London County, I think spiked at different times with the yellow and then the red. When the community is struggling with an outbreak, we have to really pay attention. And Tom, I do know that you'll be also making sure that cases are reported. Is that right?
Yep, we'll be reporting cases basically in the same manner as last year, and we will also have kind of the same public display of those cases that we had in the past. So that way, if families want to track it at the school level, they can.
We have back-to-back Tuesday meetings. One is on health and then one is on attendance. So many staff, especially at central office, and some of the principals in the building pay attention to that too, and they give us updates, and then we make sure everybody has the updates. Did anyone have questions in this new flow chart that's been designed? As soon as we've tested it out and reviewed it, we will make sure you have it, and it'll go up on the website too for families.
Beverly?
Susan, can you talk about the cleaning of the schools?
Yes, we still have our ESSER funds, which has provided additional custodians in the schools. So they are wiping down multiple times. We really are looking forward to our children kind of returning to the cafeteria for lunches instead of being in the classroom, so that the work will be done in the cafeteria instead of all over the building. With snack time though, it's really good to have that additional person who can then wipe down in between. So
There be hand sanitizers in each room? Can you talk about stuff like that?
I'll look to Sam for that. Hand sanitizer.
It's really best for kids to use soap and water to wash their hands rather than the chemicals that they have in the hand sanitizer. So we encourage everybody to use soap and water in the lavatories.
And teachers still
And classrooms have sinks.
Teachers still do teach that, Beverly, especially for our littlest ones, and remind them to sneeze in their arm and, you know, not to use their hands and to wash their hands. And they've really, I think in the past couple of years, they even sing an alphabet song. They have to sing happy birthday song as they bubble up with their soap and water. And so we take it pretty seriously, keeping, you know, clean and safe from these germs.
What about on the high school level, Sam? They can't use hand sanitizers?
I don't encourage anybody to use hand sanitizer. I'd prefer they use soap and water. It's the safest thing to use, but they do have hand sanitizer in both the middle school and the high school, but we still try and encourage them to use soap and water when they can. Hand sanitizer, when there's long lines waiting to get in somewhere, I think they're using them there. They have little units that stand out in the hallway.
Really, in all of our schools, they still have those units that you can put your hand under, especially if you've got an adult coming into the building. It's right there, so you can't miss it.
I know what you're saying, Sam, that soap and water is better, but a hand sanitizer is better than nothing, you know, so.
Agreed.
Any other questions?
No.
All right, so we're at, oof, nice job, guys. We're at the referral tracking sheet. And I think one of the things that we talked about is that each committee would kind of take a look at each of their own tracking parts. That's not at all what I meant, but we're there. So that we would then look at the committee of the whole. And Rita, I see you have I think it's interesting, your hand is kind of blending in with your wall, so I can't see.
I see a yellow hand.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have a question, comment?
Yeah, I have a few questions about the tracking sheet. If you notice, if you go down to finance and facilities, I asked the same question about purchasing a van to transport special ed students, a smaller van, last year in June. And then again in April, we talked about obtaining new bus contracts and having board member involvement. So that has been on the table. But I had a question about what is the use of PayPal? That's for finance and facility. Could
We were
tell me-
trying to find an online component for students and parents to pay different charges. I see Tom up there. I know that Clint is gone, but can you speak to that? I don't know that we actually got PayPal, but we have some other system.
To my knowledge, we don't have PayPal currently. The only thing that we've gotten online at this point is that parents can use credit cards to pay that. We prefer that over cash or check. To my knowledge, we don't have a system in place where they could use PayPal or Venmo or anything like that. That is something we may look at in the future, but we haven't put anything like that in place.
Okay.
But what system do they use to pay, like the lunch? That must be one system, right, that they would pay.
So that's my payments. That's my payments plus. That is specifically for just food service payments at this point. We also have a separate vendor, which is a company called Vanco, and that integrates right into Power School. So parents, if there's like accountabilities or other fees, they can pay directly through there using a credit card.
So should we, something like that, because I've heard a lot of negative things about PayPal, should we just take that off?
Well, that's,
Jay,
Yeah.
whatever Jay thinks.
yeah,
We did discuss this with Ken, not specifically PayPal,
Mhm.
but one of the parent groups, I believe a PTO, wanted to know whether or not they could use one of these online services for their fundraising. And apparently they were turning to Ken for some advice. He would have to really speak to what his final recommendation was. It's just something we sort of discussed, but it was not that the district itself was going to use any of this. As they mentioned, the lunches are being done through a long-term vendor that we have. This was more for PTOs asking for advice on what they could use that would be safe.
Oh, that's great. Okay. And then I had one other question going up to R 2022-5. So Beverly had mentioned about minority recruitment. We're supposed to be having a review monthly about AA and an update on staffing LP. I'm not sure what AA and LP is. The second to the last one under subject.
Are you talking about discussion regarding minority recruitment? That was Katrina Fitzgerald.
Right, I know that. I didn't know what review monthly.
Andrea Ackerman.
Okay, so she suggested that and an update on staffing.
Lori
Liz.
LaPont. Oh, no. Who's
Liz.
Lizzie?
Liz
Liz
Porter.
Porter. Oh,
Quarter. Okay, but I don't think that's happening.
Well,
well, I do know that we're gonna get to the minority recruitment. I don't remember why you wanted it monthly.
I think just for an update, but you're correct, because we haven't been meeting about that in DEI. So, because I'm on that committee, DEI. recruitment,
Okay.
but we haven't.
I think this was pertinent, though, specifically to finance and facility.
I don't think so.
Okay,
Well, it's under there, yeah.
so I'm thinking.
It's under subject.
Right, I think in September, we should get to the minority recruitment, and I'm making a note to see how we then want to proceed our conversations around recruitment, recruitment for diversity of recruitment.
Right,
I know that Lori and Jamal have presented the plan
Yes.
a couple times.
and then number 3, underneath subject, implementation of one card, one community, it's Lee White. And legal issues under review by Clint. Maybe we could change the LW to MS. Since Lee is no longer on the board and Matthew is on the board at the library representing us.
And do we have any new?
You wrote about it last month.
Yeah.
Is that under Cal? Is that under Cal?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
So it's on that same, it's on page 2, Matthew.
Yes, I've got it. I've got it.
All right. Ms. Joan, are you following us?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
I love her. She needs to be in my life forever. And do we need any, where are we going with the Educational Rising Club? There's so many things that we have to get to.
Who knows?
All right,
I could get an update from Adam over at the high school. I haven't
All right.
I
spoken to
think
him
we
about it.
did, when we negotiated stipends though, with the GEA, I think that was one of the new ones listed.
Beverly?
Kim, how are we doing with the ad hoc committee for naming a part of a school?
Well, just
For
so
Dr.
happens,
Mitchell?
Beverly, it just so happens that that is my #1 thing down to suggested future topics, is that I plan to institute an ad hoc from the board, because remember we did the policy, or I sent out the policy that we don't, it can be an
Mr.
in-home,
Whitman on it.
it can be an in-home or in-board thing, because it's not just one library. We have we have 3 new schools. And so just to have a group of people together to kind of talk about, you know, people, what rooms would we want to dedicate, et cetera. So it is on my list. So Beverly, I hope that answers your question.
Do you have a time frame for that?
I'm
Is it
hoping.
sooner than later or what?
Oh, please, because this has been, this is kind of like the review of the 9000s. It has been on our agenda for way too long, and it needs to be, there are people in our community that have worked really hard for our district that need to be recognized, and we need to get moving on that. So I would prefer it to be sooner than later, but I think that would be the work of that ad hoc committee to determine how long that they would want to do that. All of a sudden we got really much bigger.
If I could add this, we're working on that in policy, but we're advocating that you use the old policy and just move forward with it until we get the new policy.
Yeah, I mean, it's the one that's
It's always been
in,
your purview though, to name parts of facilities.
right. I until a new policy gets placed, it always goes to the old, so, all right.
And also, our 2021-14, the evaluation of the magnet themes, are they working? That was supposed to be a discussion this summer.
Well, we're not done with the summer yet.
Well, I'm just saying, you know, it'd be a good thing to talk about, but this is supposed to be under committee of the whole. And I think we're just about out of those.
We are out of this. Thanks for the reminder.
But I think that would be a great thing for September, when the principals are back and teachers, and they could present how they feel about this.
And putting a star beside it.
Yeah, I agree with Rita. I think
Yeah,
that's a great September topic. They can come back and tell us what they accomplished over the summer and how that led into their plans for the new year.
And also to have Emma, who is the magnet theme coordinator,
Yep.
to come in and talk about that
Right.
as well. All right, Rita,
I
you
would
are
like to hear suggestions about if they feel one theme isn't working, what would they suggest instead?
Anything else, folks, as we're reviewing this?
Yeah.
Hey, Rita, could you go back to page 1 underneath the committee of the whole, our 2020, 21, and 26? They've
Right.
been on so long.
Yeah, you could take them off because obviously there's, you know, we haven't had that diversity discussion about STEM masters and STEM residency. That was to have, we might be doing something about that. Do we do that at UConn at Avery Point, Susan?
We have hired candidates from Avery Point in both the STEM field and also special education.
Right, right. So, yeah, we could take that off. That's fine.
I'll just mention that to Lori as a topic because she could highlight some of the different hires that we've had and how we've been able to either cultivate them ourselves or have them come in through these different programs.
Mhm.
Beverly?
To be the suggestion of having the principals come in and talk about how the themes are working. This is with no disrespect, but do they feel comfortable enough with the board and with the administration to come in and have an honest discussion about it? That they could tell us their true feelings and not feel like, oh, I better not say this. Because that has happened in the past. They don't want to say anything because they don't want to get in trouble and blah, blah. But I really like to have an honest discussion about it.
Beverly, that's a really good question. That's a really good question.
I would say
Well-
that they would be very honest with you and
Yeah,
tell
I
you
think-
even what, you know, in this, I mean, last year was the first year that they all got on board as magnets. So they might tell you some of the challenges they faced with that, some of the pleasing parts of it. I know the school-wide enrichment and these enrichment opportunities during the day, they've gotten very excited about. So they'll give you kind of the good, the bad, and the ugly. I think they would feel comfortable.
Yeah, I think if we open that door, we task them to come with what they found success with and what they're struggling or what the teachers might be struggling with a little bit. They'll come ready to talk.
Yeah. Could we also have a couple of teachers? I mean, not just a principal.
Yeah, we sure could.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Future topics. I'm going to start off with the ad hoc. And do I have people who are interested in being part of that? I have Andrea.
Sure.
Beverly, would you be willing to be part of the ad hoc?
Yes, I will.
Thank you. Is there another person?
I bet you Liz would.
Jay?
Jay has his hand up.
Yeah,
Jay?
that's good. Jay's good.
Yeah, I would be interested in being on it.
All right, so I have the three. So I have Andrea, Beverly, and Jay. And Andrea, I'm just going to task you with being the person that gathers the group together.
One gathering going on.
Okay, so I'm not saying that that Andrea has to be the person in charge. I'm just saying that I'm tasked her with the starting of the group. Okay. All
And
right.
Jim, can I just add, Jim Streeter has certainly been a helpful person in the past when we've had committees, so.
He might come in as a guest.
Yeah. I
Um,
certainly appreciated his understanding, his historian view.
I would like for a suggested future topic, and it's also on our attachment sheet. That's not the attachment sheet. That was fun to look at for a second. Is our mentoring program, and if we could just have a status and also the plan of action about how we're moving forward on that. And then I've captured staffing just to get an update about where we are on staffing. So in September, that feels like that's another good chunk of things to talk about, which would then include our diversity. How about if that also talks about where Lori Lapine is finding where she's cultivating. I also would love to hear about Grow Your Own, that part of the program. That feels like that would make a lot of sense. And then also talking about how does enrollment look in September in terms of how those missing pieces. Did I hit that? All right. Other topics, please.
I just had a question about the last one under policy. Has that happened? Eligibility to participate in interscholastic athletics at the Groton Middle School?
It's a work in progress, but we're getting close.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Rita, we are really laboring over, I shouldn't use the word laboring. We're really delving into policies that we have on board now. And that's one of them. We want to make sure that every kid who wants to participate has an opportunity to do that. And we're looking at recommendations, because not kids who want to do something, participate in something, don't always look like they do on paper. So we're not looking at what somebody else thinks you can do. We're looking at what you think you can do.
But when I think of this policy, eligibility, I thought it was more like the high school's policy that a student that maybe was receiving a D or F, what Mark Romano spoke about last time he spoke, it was more the eligibility. And that to me is different than having enough opportunities for students. You know, my question is, would anybody that received a D or an F, not to have them but have that help after school, the homework club like they do at the high school.
Right.
That's
That's
what I thought
actually,
that was.
we actually put that in regulations along with CTL, which is being slightly restructured so that kids will really, it's not going to be a glorified study hall, that the
Right.
kids need the help, the teachers will reach out to the students can reach out to the teachers, and we're really going to push for that period every day.
Yes.
And it's only like a 25-minute period. I think there's one day of the week that they're going to try to extend it. But that period is really used for kids to get the extra help from their teacher.
Right, but that's different than participating in athletics.
No, but I'm saying that's the support we're going to give the kids who have the lower grades and need to keep
Right,
up with the
but that's
grades.
for everyone, but this is specifically for athletics. And I thought it would just be the same as the high schools. You know, anybody that's participating, and if you fall below, then you automatically, in order to participate, need to go to extra help.
That's right. We've got it down. We'll be bringing it to you all very shortly.
Okay, thank
We're
you.
also going to be looking at the middle school in terms of this as well. And I have to say that Beverly is the one who really is behind this 100. Well, we all are, but she's really the one that keeps it right in front of us to make sure that, you know, the kids are held accountable, and and also so they can participate.
Yeah.
Any other future topic?
Then,
Wow.
All right.
motion to adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn on the table. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Jay. All those in favor, please. Oh, any discussion? Oh, I don't have to do a discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Oppose, nay. Thank you, guys. Good meeting.
Yeah.
All right. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Night.